continue to monitor that news conference. But what are your initial thoughts, Paul, as you hear that? Because you and I, unfortunately, have been in this position many times before to talk about shootings that have taken place, whether they be in schools or other locations. But to think about that scene unfolding of a first responder off duty, dropping someone off at a school, and then immediately turning right around to where this gunfire was taking place.
Right. You know what, Elaine, what that really speaks to is it should crystallize for all of our viewers that these police officers around the country, they live and breathe right in everybody's community. So, they're dropping kids off, but, they're ready to go to work. It also really describes why police departments around the country, Elaine, ensure that their officers, while off duty, are also armed so that they can consistently be able to provide protection in situations just like this. I think this really crystallizes that for our viewers, that police response is truly a 24/7 response. It also reminds me of when you and I were covering the Dayton shooting. This is another example of shots fired and police officers running in the direction of those shots fired. And then last but not least, what it speaks to, Elaine, is the discipline and the training that goes into being a police officer and the retraining on first responder to medical emergencies. Police officers are trained and retrained how to handle medical situations on the triage basis in situations just like this. So it really does capture the very essence of not just the training but the commitment that are given to the communities.
We also heard from the official with the Sheriff's Department, Paul, that it sounds as though there were trauma kits at the school, this official said, and that they were deployed by personnel. For people who might not be familiar, can you just explain what he was talking about there?
Sure. Trauma kits are designed to be that kind of bridge, if you will, before paramedics will arrive. And that could be stopping bleeding, for example, and being able to control a situation from a medical standpoint. It's not advanced, it's basic, but it's enough to act as a bridge to stabilize someone until a paramedic can arrive.
And Paul, we heard as well the discussion about a search warrant being executed on what they believe to be the suspect's residence. So help us understand at this point what it is that they're obviously going to be doing as they continue to proceed with that search warrant.
An extremely poignant question, Elaine. The best way for us to describe this is think of various silos with a breezeway connecting between. Simultaneously, police are, one, managing and really examining the crime scene itself. They're also, and I'm amazed that municipality was able to turn around a search warrant that quickly. That really speaks volumes. But at this point, they're going to use that search warrant. That search warrant has to be written meticulously. So they have to say exactly what they're looking for. They're going to look to search the entire home, any areas specific to the shooter, but also his devices, his computer, laptop, phone, etc. Then they're going to start diving in, kind of piggybacking on what the homicide detective was talking about. They're going to start digging in to get into the profile of this, to try to understand who he was communicating with, what websites he was visiting, emails that were sent, text messages, phone calls, etc. That's going to help crystallize the mosaic that they're going to need in order to start drilling down on the why. That's the most important part at this juncture, because right now, Elaine, we're in two spots. We're in foreseeability. Was this foreseeable? We know that statistically. We know that 88% of shooters of this demographic, 17 or younger, in schools, comply to leakage, meaning they talk about get-even plans. So they're going to be looking to see if he fits into that particular category. It's critical. And the last but not least is that they're preparing for prosecution. They have to make sure this goes to court. It stands up on every level.
So, Paul, we heard from the officials that there was a post on what they believe to be the Instagram account of the suspect that said something to the effect of "have fun at school tomorrow." But that apparently was changed after the shooting itself, and they're obviously trying to get at the root of whether that was someone who hacked into that account or whether it was someone who had knowledge and perhaps was somehow aware of this plan. How long does it typically take, or do you have a sense of how long it takes to run something like that down?
They'll probably know by tomorrow, Elaine. And basically what's going to happen is, when you look at it, you're talking about a kid who turned 16 today, which is another relevant point, right? This was his birthday. And that's for a separate discussion. But to answer your question, in order to circle back with this, they'll probably know this tomorrow. Because it's not going to take long to figure out a 16-year-old kid who just turned 16 who had access to that account. Instagram will assist with police. There's no question about that. Obviously, they'll turn around search warrants if they need to expeditiously. But I would anticipate by this time tomorrow night, when you and I are talking, we'll probably know the answer to that question.
All right, Paul Violas for us. Paul, thank you very much for sharing your insight with us.